I'm back with my festive shirt here, finishing up this ML I talked about last time, with putting the different pickups in it. I took a little break and I found a screw that held the pickup in the ring. I didn't want to do mismatched screws, but this was a direct mount pickup, and whoever direct mounted it really did a number on it. So customers trying to save as much money as possible, so I'm doing this on the cheap. I typically wouldn't do that. I'd rather they all matched, but I am doing this the way they asked. So I'm just right now going to go ahead and mount the pickup back in, now that everything's good. These long threaded skinny little screws for the pickup mounting rings, just going to drive those in real quick and start wiring. As I do that, I'll kind of walk you through what I'm doing, if it helps. I mean, if you haven't wired a guitar, then this might help, but if you have, you obviously know what's going on. This is old hat, as far as that's concerned. I'm making a point to try and store my screws all in the same place so they're easy to find. It's always a headache when you set them down somewhere weird, they end up vanishing, especially you close the shop, you leave for a day or two, whatever. Things vanish, or you come back and you look at your bench and it's chaos and you can't find crap, period, which happens. I'm not gonna lie. I can set something down directly in front of me and it doesn't exist. It's like basically not there. Okay, so flipping the guitar over now, I've got the control cavity off, as you can see. 2 wires are out, and I'm going to go ahead and wire everything up. Now, if you've never done this, this is a typical 3-way toggle switch in here. I don't know if you can see that. Your ground lug is this big guy over here all by himself on your, I don't know what's going to end up, just this guy right here on the far side, towards the neck of the guitar. 2 tabs here on either side of the switch. The upper one would be your neck pickup, and the lower one would be your bridge pickup. The middle is your common, that's your out for both, that goes to your output, your volume pot, whatever. And they're usually just soldered together, they're clipped together and crimped together, and then someone drops some solder on it so you have a complete electrical connection, or they run the wire through it and do the same thing, But I'm just going to go ahead and wire this up. So I'll just basically, I do have to couple these. I have to, like these pickup leads here, they're wired together, but I'm going to heat shrink them. I can't stand to use electrical tape because I just don't like it. I want to strip these back a bit so I have more of the bare ground, more length there for me to work with. If things are short and you're stretching, you can get into trouble, pulling things loose and whatnot if you're not careful. I'm going to strip probably both these back because there's barely anything for the ground. I could just go ahead and use these long leads, but I want to have both connected, so I'm going to do that right quick. I have a handy dandy pair of strippers here. They got a Radio Shack when they were open years ago. Seems like such a shame. I keep talking about lamenting Radio Shack closing, but it really does cause me issues, especially being where we're at. And I don't know that you can really find much anywhere anymore like Radio Shack had locally in any market, because they were great for the hobbyist and the guys that were trying to build stuff like this, or just work on things, But then again, the whole thing with hobby radio making and stuff, that's kind of gone the way of the dinosaur. Computers are a bigger thing now, and a lot of printed circuit boards and things, and it's a different market altogether, I think. Of course, someone's probably laughing at me because they know better, but whatever. I just buy all my stuff online and make sure I have plenty in stock for when issues come up, like repairs. Get myself some extra wire here for the ground. I'm going to tin everything so there's a solid connection. You don't want to not tin it, because that ends up not working out in your favor. You want pre-tinned wire. You don't just melt solder onto things. You melt solder on the wire by getting the wire hot, and your connection is solid. Speaking of which, while I'm doing this, I'm going to better plug in my soldering iron, because that is going to stop a whole lot of progress, right? If your iron's not plugged in, you got nothing. While I'm doing that, I can go ahead and wrap these 2 poles off for your typical modes here. And I think I'm going to use electrical tape today because my beautiful torch that I use for everything, I don't use a lighter, I use a propane torch, just because it's overkill, is not with me. I took it camping and it's at the house. So I'm just going to get some electrical tape and quickly wrap this off, I guess. You know, like I said, typically I don't use electrical tape. The one thing to watch if you do this stuff with electrical tape is you don't need a whole lot. You just need enough to hold the thing in place. Some people get to where they get crazy overkill with it, and you end up with that gobs of sticky crap all over the wire and too much of that stuff in there. I just want enough to cover the end of that and a little past it, and maybe a couple wraps around it, so it's not, you know, making contact with anything inside the guitar cavity, the control cavity, because that is not ideal. It's just going to cause you issues. Like, why does my guitar make sound? Well, something's touching, and it's not going to work. You know, any change in that circuit is going to cause you problems. So, go ahead and get myself another piece of the stuff. My overkill scissors. There we go. The scissors are in no way affiliated with the band Overkill. They'd like to be, but I don't think Overkill cares about my scissors. All right, there is the other one, done, ready to go. Should be pretty simple because the leads, plenty of wire here. Just kind of tuck it back out of the way once I get my stuff tinned here, and I'll check, see if my iron's getting hot. Yeah, a little solder. Got my iron on 30 watts. This one's got 15 and 30 watts, setting on like 30 because I like to melt stuff. Yeah, that's pretty good. Starting to get there. I am going to make sure that's clean, so I'll be right back after I get my sponge ready. Gotta have a clean tip when you solder. You know, a lot of people just leave their stuff dirty, and your tip won't last you as long if you do that, you know, and you're not going to make as good a connection. So I get this kind of wet, squeeze it out, and just clean it off. I'll re-tin it too, you know, so there's solder on the end, helps it heat, make a better connection. You don't want cold solder joints because they don't work sometimes. I mean, you can get signal through them, but not always. Yeah, it's a little cool yet. I wondered because the water on the sponge would cool it a bit. Yeah, so basically, this is going to be pretty quick. It'll be, well, this wire's broke loose. What's this guy? That's ground. Is that a ground to the, that's grounded there. It looks like he's having issues with one of his ground wires here between the two pots, maybe? That's grounded, that's grounded. That's not grounded. There we go. So yeah, his wire, one of his ground wires came loose here. I'm going to go ahead and strip that back and redo that as well while I'm in here, you know, because I don't want to have to do it later, especially once they paid me, you know, that'd be bad. Make me look like a pretty shady car salesman type guitar repair guy, and I'm not, in spite of my shirt. I'm not Al Swindler, okay? If you remember that from Garfield. Probably not. Anyway, make sure you got plenty of wire here all around my hot leads. I'm gonna go ahead and I'll probably just clip those and re-solder myself. There's gobs of crap on there, which is not ideal. I don't like gobs of crap. If you like gobs of crap, that's your thing. It's not for me. I think it's gross. There we go. Well, yeah, got plenty of threads. Okay, it should be hot now. We're gonna tin these guys. Just touch the wire, get it hot, melt the solder, you know. You know, and this stuff, a lot of times it's leaded, so I blow the stuff away from me. You know, I don't want to breathe that in if I can. I try to use lead-free solder as much as possible, but I'm out and I had to order some, so I'm waiting, and repairs need to be done. So I'm using this old crap that I don't like because of its health effects. You get plenty of solder on both wires grounds. One thing to watch is as you're soldering these, you grab the end of that wire, it's going to be freaking hot. You know, the heat's traveling down the metal wire and it will burn your fingers. You know, sometimes I'll use like a mini pair of needle nose pliers or something just to kind of hold on to it. You know, it helps. This guy doesn't want to, there we go. Solder, solder, solder. There we go. Now we're going to solder the ground leads, the two of them, together at the 10 points. So they're solid. Let it melt, let it flow, and then you're good. If you don't get to the point where it's flowing nicely, you're not going to have a solid connection. Like that's a cold solder joint too. If that stuff's not just awesome. Let's strip that back a little further because I want to make I don't want so much excess wire in that black one. Yeah, that was. There we go. That's better. Retin it because I just stripped it. Do. Oh, nice, nice, nice. Beautiful. All right. So what I'll do first is I'll hook up the hot leads. Remember I told you those lugs on the switch, the bottom lug being the bridge. I'm going to do this. There's the bridge pickup. I'm going to go ahead and put that hot lead in that bottom lug. Real simple. Heat it up. There's a little hole there. I like to use these little holes. Some people just connect to them. That's fine. Either way works, as long as you got contact and plenty of solder. You don't need gobs of solder, but you know enough that it's going to hold. When I wait, let it cool, and then check it. Make sure it's not going to just pop off there, because sometimes they do, especially if you're in a hurry. And that's never a way to be when you're doing like detail work like this. You gotta just kind of take your time. One thing I've noticed is I've had pretty bad eyes anyway, but it gets hard to see some of this stuff. I should have glasses on. Good and clean. Good, we got that. Now we'll go ahead and start soldering up the ground. The ground is a bigger lug, so it takes more time. Anytime you have more mass for anything, you're going to have to apply heat over a longer period of time. And you know, these switch lugs, the ground side is usually the thickest part of everything. So I hold the iron on it for just a little bit longer, or use a bigger iron. I had a 72-watt soldering gun that was great for this, but they don't last forever, and it's time for a new gun. So until then, I'm just going to use this and just be patient, you know. Just kind of waiting, letting it heat. Make sure there's plenty of solder on that lug. I guess it's not really so much a lug as a giant plate that runs through it, you know. It's like a big, think of it like a sandwich, and the different parts of the sandwich are the different connections, you know. Look at it's like the wafers, I call them. I don't know what the technical term is for them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of those, and then dead center between 3 and 3 is your ground. that's running across. And then between the other wafers, you have your bridge. So you have your first wafer, then you have your bridge lug, and then your next wafer is one of your commons. Then you have the ground after that next wafer, and then back through another wafer, and then common, and then another wafer, and then your neck, and then another wafer to hold it all together. If it was exposed on either side with the first and sixth wafer, you would you'd run into issues with contact and whatnot. You can't have that just kind of hanging out to be touching whatever. The ground, I'm going to go ahead and solder on the neck, and then I'm going to solder on the bridge. Just kind of stack them on there so they're all solid. I'm just repeating what the manufacturer had done here. I could solder the grounds to the backs of the volume pot or tone pot, which is not bad as long as I have connection. But I'm just going to go ahead and basically mimic the manufacturer's work. And the big thing with grounds is they just have to be connected. There we go. I use my screwdriver sometimes as like a flathead or whatever. It's like a little lever to help me hold that on there without burning the heck out of my fingers. Because that happens and it's miserable, and it does, No one likes burnt fingers. Again, be patient, let it heat. Don't jump the gun. Because if you do, you'll regret it. The thing will pop off and you got to move a wire, or you'll plug the guitar in and it's going to sound all buzzy and crappy because the ground's not complete. Hold it on there, let it do its thing. It should be solid. Ouch, that got hot. Burnt palms, burnt fingers, whatever, So, not the prettiest looking thing. I had plenty of excess wire, and I'm not going to wrap it up too much. I'm just trying to get this done as fast as possible and as cheap as possible. But everything's grounded, and bridge and neck, and we're going to, I guess, fire it up and test it and everything, see how it goes. Now, if you've, in this case, he is going to want to put the strings on himself. He's younger, he's trying to learn how to do it, he wants to practice those kinds of things. And I'm going to let him, I'm not going to stop him. I'd like to do the work, but I have plenty to do right now, so I'm not going to be upset about not, doing extra work right now. But if you aren't doing the strings and you want to test things, what you can do is actually take like a screwdriver or something and tap the pickups. Plug it into an amp, tap the pickups, see what happens. It should make noise. You check your switch, you put it in the bridge position, tap the bridge pickup, should make some noise, and you'll know if it's good noise. And then you move to the middle position, check both, and then check the neck. Sometimes when you want to check the like when you're tapping the bridge, check the neck too to make sure it's not kicking out the same volume, because that's not ideal. You don't want both pickups to be on at all times. That's not what we're trying to accomplish, when you're in the bridge position. And then when you go to check the neck, you do the same thing. You make sure that the bridge pickup isn't bleeding through, Now this old Dean here, it's one of the cheap ones. It's an MLX. I'm not going to put all 3 screws in, because when they did this at the factory, one of the screw holes is actually in the cavity, and half the screw hole is like not even in existence. It's in the cavity, so it's kind of pointless. But I'm going to put these 2 on. I will test this guitar through an amplifier and see what it does. So this should work okay. I'm going to go ahead and just double check it and show you what I do. I might have to redo something. These pickups were not labeled neck and bridge. If I have to switch them, I will. I'm not concerned about that, but I do want to show you kind of how this goes. I got this plugged into a little PV Viper amp that's turned up over here. It's in just whatever channel, but I want to, like any kind of metal thing, like a screwdriver, this Allen wrench will work. I've got it in the bridge position, both the knobs are up, and I'm just going to kind of test it. A little bleed through here, but it's not near as loud, and that's common. So I know the bridge pickup works, and I'm going to go to the neck pickup, and it works really well too. So I got that weird sound out of both of them. You know, kind of what we want, and then same thing. Exactly. So he should be good to go. I'm going to go ahead and shoot him a message, and he can get his guitar, pick it up, and string it up. And I'll be back with another repair video as I move along. I've got a couple things I want to show you. I've got some bass stuff. I've got a real interesting 6-string bass that's been being converted into like a baritone scale wide neck guitar, which is really interesting. It's got Fishman influence pickups in it. The customer started on it, and then he got to where he was like kind of getting lost, and that'll be fun because it's new to me too, as far as like trying to get things wired up and what he wants to do for switching. You know, they had a rotary switch in this bass. It's like an Ibanez bass, but he wants to switch it to like a 3-way toggle. No problem, I can do that. I have to drill, but I'll show you that one too when I get to it. But I've got more coming. If you need anything, you know, you can always message us. Our website's www.brgmusic.com. I'm Ben. Feel free to leave any comments in the comment section below. You know, if you hate it, whatever, that's fine. Subscribe to the channel, and I can show you some more stuff as I move along. Especially if you're a guy that just wants to learn some new things about guitar, you're interested in doing stuff, or you want to see how my repairs work and what kind of work I do. Feel free. You know, I try to be straightforward about stuff, you know, be as detail oriented and as you know, try to make it as professional looking as possible. So, and my repair prices are pretty much all on my website, but if you have questions, you know, feel free to message us there. You can also go to our Facebook page, and you can find us there, but the website's probably your best bet, or just call us directly, 515-329-0120, 515-329-0120, and leave me a message, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. But thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy.